drive a hard bargain. The people that I've always had issues or problems with are the people that don't demand excellence for themselves. I won't tolerate that. Because when the career is said and done, they're not going to be looking at you, a player on his team, and saying, you didn't win a championship. No, they're going to be looking here, right? So it's my responsibility to make sure everybody's holding themselves accountable. I'm holding you accountable. If we just played a back-to-back and we have practice the next day, your ass better be there, tape ready to go, right? Because I'm there and I'm ready, and I just got finished lifting weights for 2 hours. Yeah.
Let's talk about mindset and philosophy, because we tell students that it's very important that you have a personal philosophy. In your basketball career, did you have an articulated competitive philosophy, something short that meant something to you, that really stood for what you played?
My philosophy was a very simple one. And this is where I think film plays a big part of my life. Rudy was one of my favorite films growing up, right? And if you guys haven't seen Rudy, I suggest you watch Rudy.
The reason why it's it's Notre Dame. It's Notre Dame, so we don't get
guys,
crazy about that.
I think the USC football program has done okay over the years. So it's. But after watching that film, I come to understand if I could work that hard every day, with being blessed with the physical tools that I have, what would my career be? And I made a promise to myself from that day that I was going to work that hard every single day, so that when I do retire, I have no regrets. And that was the most important thing for me, is to leave no stone unturned, get better every single day. And if I lived that way, then over time, I'd have something that was beautiful. But that was my philosophy. It seems like a pretty simple one, but if you live your life to just get better every single day, and do that for 20 years, what do you have?
That's good.
How do you get how does somebody get there mentally with that public humiliation? To some people hurts them and they don't come back? Because there was a player, Barbosa, I don't know if you remember Barbosa.
Yeah,
of course you remember.
Of course.
He was extremely talented for quick first step, but they said he wouldn't do well when the spotlight was on him.
Yeah.
How did you get mentally and emotionally so strong where it doesn't bother you?
Well, you got to look at the reality of the situation. Like for me, it's not, you kind of got to get over yourself. Like, it's not about you, man. Like, okay, you feel embarrassed. You're not that important. Like, get over yourself.
That's where you go.
Get over yourself, right? Like, you're worried about how people may perceive you, and like you're walking around and it's embarrassing because you shot 5 air balls. Get over yourself, right? And then after that, it's okay, well, why did those air balls happen? Got it. High school, year before, we played 35 games, max, right? Week in between, spaced out, plenty of time to rest. In the NBA, it's back to back to back to back to back to back to back. I didn't have the legs. So you look at the shot, every shot was online, but every shot was short, right? I got to get stronger. I got to train differently. The weight training program that I'm doing, I got to tailor it for an 82-game season, so that when the playoffs come around, my legs are stronger and that ball gets there. So I look at it with rationale and say, okay, well, the reason why I shot air balls is because my legs aren't there. I go, well, next year they'll be there. That was it.
Done.
I've always wanted to ask you this question. We kind of have similar backgrounds. I'm from New Jersey. I know you're from the Philadelphia area. You moved to Italy. I was, hanging out in Germany as a youngster. How was it growing up in Italy? Did you live on a place that was with all Americans, or were you with Italian kids?
Yeah, we because we were also young. I was 6. My sister Shay was 7. Our eldest Sharia was 8. And so we were just starting elementary school, basically. And so our parents just immersed us in Italian culture. So we were just surrounded by Italian kids. We were just learning the language as they were. So for us, it was full immersion. And there were no American bases. There was nothing. It was just straight Italian.
So where did you get the killer instinct from as a basketball player? Because for me, I used to go on the Army base, and being the big kid, I used to have to play with the big guys. So they used to throw me around and beat me up. Where did you get your killer instinct from?
Well, yeah, I think a lot of it had to do with isolation. Growing up over there and being the only African-American kid. Not being able to speak the language, I gravitated towards the game. And in that game, you find a lot of
you find solace in the game. And then when you play with kids that might not accept you because you're an outsider, but yet when we come to play the game, that's my chance to get vengeance on them for not accepting me, and that's where it kind of started developing. And throughout the course of my life, it's always been that. It's always been the outsider and having to come in and prove, or to seek some sort of vengeance when I play.
Well, I was obsessive, bro. I was really obsessive about this game, and like to me, everything was competitive advantage as well. I didn't want to be around guys that see me out and know when I'm not working. I don't want that. And I was really about that life. Like I was going at it, and then to know what I'm doing now, I had to prepare for that early. So like at 20, I started thinking about, I got to think about what comes at the end.
Right.
All right, writing. I didn't know it was going to be films and novels and all that sort of stuff, but I knew it was going to be something around writing. So I had to practice that. So when I wasn't playing basketball, spending time with my wife and family, I was writing. So I didn't have time to be going out and doing all that sort of stuff. Not to say I didn't do it, but
What were some of the down moments for you in basketball?
Well, losing to the Celtics in the finals in 2008, I mean, that was tough.
That hurt me too.
Yeah, I mean, it was brutal. And I remember at night in the hotel room after we lost, just thinking to myself, I may never win another championship. Like I might have just, like, this is it. It's too hard to get back here. Maybe it's not in the cards to win another one. And so I go through that night of being mad. And then the next morning I wake up and I start thinking, nah, I got to fix this. So where did it go wrong? Why did we lose? Right? We weren't tough enough. Okay, we weren't tough enough. Whose responsibility is that to make the team tough? It's mine. All right, so now I have to start figuring out how I'm going to lead this team differently so to make sure that when we get to the finals the next time, we're tough and ready for this challenge. And, that's how you bounce back from those moments.
And what does love feel like for you?
What does love feel like? Happiness is such a, I don't really think I would describe love as happiness. I think I describe it as a beautiful journey. It has its ups and downs. Right, whether it's in marriage or whether it's in the career, things are never perfect. But through love, you continue to persevere and you move through them. You move through them, and then through that storm, beautiful sun emerges. Right, and inevitably another storm comes, and guess what? You ride that one out too. So I think love is a certain determination and persistence to go through the good times and the bad times with the someone or something that you truly love.
What I try to do is just try to be still and understand that things come and go, emotions come and go. The important thing is to accept them all, to embrace them all, and then you can choose to do with them what you want versus being controlled by emotion. A lot of times I've seen players, even myself, when I was younger, being consumed by a particular fear. And to the point where you're saying, okay, it's not good to feel fear. I shouldn't be nervous in a situation like that. And it does nothing but grow versus stepping back and saying, yeah, I am nervous about the situation. Yeah, I am fearful about the situation. Well, what am I afraid of? And then you kind of unpack it. And then it gives you the ability to look at it for really what it is, which is nothing more than your imagination running its course,
Leadership's an interesting question. How did you know when to lead and when to be passive?
All right, I'm gonna give a very weird answer to that. But just like stay with me for a second. So my wife and I went on vacation. This was after 2008 finals when we lost to the Celtics. And we went on vacation in France and we're walking around. And the thing that was really beautiful to me was how beautiful everything was, how beautiful nature was, the flower, the trees, everything was just gorgeous. And my mind got to thinking, well, I noticed the beauty of these things in their elements, but these things cannot be beautiful without the sun. But yet I'm not sitting here and saying, wow, the sun is so beautiful, right? I'm appreciating their own standalone beauty, right? And by the same token, the sun also knows when to disappear, right? Too much of the sun becomes hazardous, right? And so that helped me understand how to lead my team, right? So when you come back in 2009 and you watch the Lakers play, you're not watching Lamar Odom play and saying, wow, he's great because Kobe's there. Kobe's making him better, right? That's not, you have to sit and watch the game and appreciate Lamar Odom in his own right, Powell in his own right. So as a leader in practice, you're there, you're helping them grow. But you also have to know when to go away.
It's important to do what you have serious interest in doing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You got to do what you love to do. I love telling stories. I love, inspiring kids or providing them with tools that are going to help them, right? And the two ways to do it is through information or inspiration. Nothing moves without one of those two things. And so I do information in a tactical sense from what I've learned from the game of basketball through detail. That is my way of giving back, not just to the game of basketball, but just to sport. When I can have, some of the all-time greats from their different industries, Peyton Manning, Cormier, and some of these other big names that are coming down the road, give back to their game by sharing their insight and their knowledge at a very high level. So that's information for the next generation that can watch it at 13, 14, 15 years old and gain insight that might have taken us 20 years to get. Right. So that gives them a leg up. Then the other part of it is inspiration through our stories, through our series. How can we teach kids to process very complex things at an early age so that it gives them a leg up on life?
Yeah, it's it's about appreciating every moment for me, because we've been through so much, and as your career kind of, I'm not an old man, but you start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel is much brighter than the one at the beginning of the tunnel. So it's really about appreciating every day as it comes. Every game, every win, every loss, every practice. It's just soaking every day in. And
what habits allow you to consistently come through in the clutch and specifically when it matters most?
Just be calm. Just be calm. Sometimes we tend to overhype situations. Kind of our imagination gets in our own way.
Yeah.
And at the time, Brian, D-Wade, and a lot of those guys, especially Brian, was still young.
Yeah.
And hadn't really figured out those pressure situations. And for me, I was able to detach myself from it and to allow the work that I put in at practice to manifest itself during the game. Right? So there's no need to panic. Like I've taken these shots thousands and thousands of times before. Right. Nothing changes.
Yeah.
I've had games that I've won, games that I've lost at the buzzer. You show up the next morning and you get to practice again anyway.
Right.
Right. So not getting in your own way.
Yeah.
We all have, parts of ourselves that are extremely complicated. I mean, none of us are just simply one thing. Right? We all have those moments, and by creating the Black Mamba, what that helped me do was identify when to flip that switch. Right? It gave me something tangible, so when I step on the court to perform, I understand this is the mentality I'm getting into, which is different than, Kobe Bryant, a father and husband and so forth, right? Friend. When I step in between those lines, this is who I become. So it's just my own personal form of storytelling that helps inspire me and keeps me focused.
Is a desire to be great something that you walk in the game with, or is it something that you start to earn as you start to see your skills develop? You start feeling like, I got this, like I got something I can do. Or do you set out the moment you first pick up the rock, get in the studio and say, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be the best?
For me, I set out immediately to be the best. I mean, it was a decision, right? And you can't, at what point do you say, okay, I have the skills that are good enough to be one of the best ever? How do you even know that, right? I think it has to be a quest from day one. This is a choice that you're gonna make, and the sacrifices that come along with that. But once you make that deal with yourself, that's it, there's no going back.
When you think about your risk tolerance for failure, how far are you willing to fail?
Well, unfortunately and fortunately, I failed quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I understand that's actually part of the process of succeeding. I'm not one that really believe in failure. I believe you have setbacks. And, you have to learn from those. You have to learn what are those landmines that can be avoided the next time. What are those pitfalls? And you have to learn from that stuff. And so, I welcome those things. It's a part of life.
I was very serious about the game at all times, whether it was a shoot around, whether it was a light practice, whether it was on the plane, whether it was at, in the hotel, on the road. I would study the game. I would think about our opponents. you know, and what we're going to do the next practice, what we're going to do the next game. And not every player was doing that. I didn't think, you know, this is, you know, special. I thought it was different. I thought it could give me an advantage, you know, against my opponents if my opponents aren't doing the same thing. No, I don't play around with basketball. I don't fool around with that. You know, I'm very serious about it.
What do people misconstrued about greatness? What's the missing puzzle piece, right? Because it's like, of course there's hard work, right? Of course you have to have the mindset. What's the missing puzzle piece in greatness? That you can't just say it.
Well, I think there's a certain stubbornness that comes along with being great. I think people see greatness as kind of an easy road, right? It's like a one-path thing. You work hard, and then all of a sudden it happens. It don't work like that. Like, you know, there's a lot of darkness that comes from that as well. I mean, there's a lot of experiences, personal experiences that you go through that you use as fuel to propel you forward, whereas otherwise it would just be obstacles for others. It might even prevent them from going forward, right? Whereas for us, I mean, those moments do nothing but fuel us even more.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of, you know, the anxiety, right, the fear, the anger, all of that stuff plays a significant part in it, just as much as love does. And it's not easy. But if it was easy, I guess everyone, you know, you have a world full of lions, but lions need gazelles. So.
Exactly.
Maybe want to put the marketing skills you've learned to work for others, be a marketing advisor, maybe even to other athletes.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, but it's for me, doing that, it seems like I should really just do that for free, because what I'm going to tell them is be yourself. That's it. Be you. Be you. There's no gimmick. You don't have to contrive anything. Who are you? Where are you today? What is your story? Where does that come from? Right? And then all you're doing is not communicating the story to the public.
Did you ever have any concerns about jumping straight to high school, from high school right into the pros?
No. I mean, I had people around me, you know, since 9th grade, because I knew that this is something that I wanted to do. It's something I was considering since that time. So I kind of tried to prepare myself, you know, leading up to that point. So I talked to as many NBA players as I could. I had my father there. So basically, when it came time to make the jump, I knew what I was getting into. You know, it wasn't a blindsided decision. I knew that I could make the move, but going through the high school season, my senior year, I knew what I wanted to do, but I had to make sure that I was 110% sure. Because once you make this type of decision, you know, there's no turning back. So I didn't want to have any doubts.
At one point, you're an incredibly accomplished person, and yet you're also a novice in a lot of ways. Like, it's just a strange collision.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Why does it feel awesome?
Because you go back to the basics. I mean, that's the most beautiful part about any craft is starting at the beginning. Mm-hmm. That is the most purest form of artistry, because you have to learn the building blocks, every little step, all the fundamentals. I mean, that's the most beautiful part to me. It's you know, the championships are a byproduct of things, drills and exercises that I did when I was 6 years old. You know, I absolutely love where I am.
As for Kobe's full story, 50 years from now, how do you want the world to look at Kobe Bryant?
You know what, as a person that was able to create stories that inspired their children and families to bond together, and for their children to dream and have the initiative to wake up every morning and do all they can to help that dream become a reality. You know, that would be really, really cool. And Bianca says it best. I'm like, hey, way to get buckets. She goes, yeah, I'm gonna get buckets like Gigi. I'm gonna get buckets like Gigi, because she just doesn't know. She has never seen me play basketball, will never know. Like, she's too little. So in her mind, Dad is just a person that puts out stories.
After the tragedy of September 11th, Kobe, like the rest of the world, found out how precious time with loved ones really is.
You didn't feel anything more profoundly, perhaps, than anybody else in this country, but because you're a celebrity and people put more value, perhaps, in what you said. I wondered if you can capsulize your feelings, your reflections, maybe how your life was changed.
Now, for my generation, it's pretty much, that was our Kennedy assassination. That was our Pearl Harbor. We've never experienced anything so tragic before. So when the events were taking place, I really didn't know what I was feeling. It took a couple days to kind of sit back and put things in perspective on what exactly was taking place. You know, my wife and I, we talked about it a great deal, about how this was not only going to affect us, but affect the world. And we're still talking about it to this day. And as far as the little things that come out of this event, things like valuing each day, cherishing the moments that we have here, valuing the love that we have for one another, speaking of myself and my wife. And but not only that, but just relationships that we have with people as a whole. I think sometimes we get to moving too fast in life, and we tend to overlook these things.
You take things for granted.
Oh, most
we take
definitely.
Our jobs for granted, our relationships for granted.
Most definitely.
Every day.
Most definitely. And after that day, I started approaching practice with a renewed freshness because I knew how important life was, how important every day is, and to just really take it one day at a time.
Well, yeah, I mean, the important thing, in this story is a story of self-acceptance. Like, we all have fears and we all have anxieties and things of that nature. We can't ignore them. When you ignore them, they fester and they have control over you. And what these young men have to learn through magic is how to have the courage to face those fears and use those fears to help themselves be better basketball players and better people through it. So that's the journey.
That's right. Good for you.
We're not on this stage just because of talent or ability. We're up here because of 4 a.m. We're up here because of 2-a-days or 5-a-days. We're up here because we had a dream and let nothing stand in our way. If anything tried to bring us down, we used it to make us stronger. We were never satisfied, never finished, will never be retired. My high school English teacher, Mr. Fisk, I actually paid attention one time in class, and he said, he had this beautiful quote, and it read, "Rest at the end, not in the middle." And I took that to heart. I believe there's time for resting at the end, but for me, that time is not now. Thank you for this tremendous honor in acknowledging my basketball career, but I'm far from done. My next dream is to be honored one day for inspiring the next generation of athletes to have a dream, sacrifice for it, and never, ever rest in the middle. Thank you to my wonderful family, my wife, our daughter Natalia and Gianna, and thank you guys. Thank you.